All right, everybody, welcome to the Jim Acosta Show. Coming a little earlier today on this Monday, but the reason why is because I have Tara Palmeri with me. Tara, great to see you. And obviously, I mean, one of the reasons why I wanted to reach out to you is because you have been pretty extensively covering this Jeffrey Epstein case. And as you and I both know, I know you're overseas right now, but overnight, Axios reported that the Justice Department and the FBI have concluded that they have no evidence that Jeffrey Epstein, the convicted sex offender, disgraced financier, blackmailed powerful figures, kept a client list, or was murdered. They also released a video showing that nobody entered the area of his prison cell, I guess, where he was the night he died in 2019. I've always thought, Tara, that this was sort of like the wackadoodle, far right, fringe type stuff that people were focused on this and saying, oh, he was actually murdered and he, kept lists of all these prominent Democratic figures and so on. And it's interesting to see this news come out and now the far right saying we don't buy. I mean, what do you, just to get started, what do you make of just the release of this information that we're seeing in the last 24 hours? And then I'll get into all the other stuff.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jim.
Yeah.
So I don't believe everything that they're saying. And I did, investigate this story for 2 years. I worked with Julie K. Brown, who was the executive producer of my podcast, Broken, Jeffrey Epstein, and another one, Power the Maxwells. She wasn't the EP on the second one, but we dug into the actual files and we spoke to the girls who testified, who were witnesses, they were deposed. And there is a lot more evidence that the FBI has. If you look inside of the vault, you can all look at the Epstein files on the FBI's website, the vault. It will take you days and days. There's thousands and thousands of
Mm.
files. A lot of it is redacted. And, I spoke to a senior law enforcement source a week or so ago, and I asked them, what are you doing with the tapes? What are you doing with the footage? Because Epstein did take a lot of pictures. He was really into that. In fact, I know Virginia Dupre was a really good friend of mine.
Mm.
I spoke to her before she died. She was brought into the FBI by her lawyer at the time, Stan Pottinger. You would know him. He's a very prominent lawyer.
Yep.
And she was there to identify her body underneath a John, underneath one of his friends. So the idea that there isn't more evidence, now it wasn't her body. She said, those aren't my breasts. That's not me. So the idea that the FBI doesn't have this information, I don't find that to be true. I also don't think Pam Bondi is a reliable actor in this
Yeah.
or source, because she says on Fox News a few months ago, there is a client list. It's sitting on my desk. There's not a
Right.
client list. Now I
Tell us
am
about that
like,
because I that was the thing that when I was looking at this, earlier this morning, everybody was dunking on Pam Bondi and showing the video from when she was on Fox in February. The Epstein client list is sitting on my desk right now, she said, and now they're saying that there isn't one. But what do you make of that? How do you square that circle?
okay, here's how you do it. So there was never a list. And I said that. The past 2 weeks, I have been going on shows. I went on Cenk Uyghur's show, The Young Turks. I went on the Daily Beast podcast. Suddenly, the FBI finally comes out with all of this after I've been saying this. We put out a video last night. They finally, around the time that they put out that memo, a few hours later, they put out a memo saying that, yes, there is no list. There's never been a list, okay?
Mm.
Yes, there are flight logs. You can all go on the, vault and go find the flight logs. There is
Yeah.
one, there is one.
There are files. There are
Yeah,
files.
they're all files, but
Yeah.
there is one pilot who's still holding on to his flight logs, and we actually went to his house and knocked on the door to try to get them. Like, that is how deep into the story I've been in there. I am in
Wow.
it, and so there's a little black book, but that doesn't mean just because you're on the flight logs or in the little black book that you were involved in sex trafficking, right? But there's footage, there's videos. I mean, even Pam Bondi spoke about it, but there was never a list. There was never just like Jeffrey Epstein wrote on a piece of paper and he was just dangling it around. And it really has become more of like this political weapon. It's been, but he liked the idea of bragging to people that, Trump is my boy. I'll never get prosecuted. Bill Barr is my boy. I'll never get prosecuted. That was what he would tell defense attorneys and criminal attorneys. And he would tell anyone who was trying to come after him that he was untouchable. And so, and how do you become untouchable? You have to know people's secrets, right? And also, why would all these rich and powerful people give a man who was a math teacher at Dalton their money to manage? Okay.
Right.
He was no like Svengali when it comes to finances. And he had all the wealthiest and most powerful men just eager to hang out with him. I'm sorry. Jeffrey Epstein was no like he was there was nothing incredible
Bullshit.
about Jeffrey Epstein. He was a man who brought a lot of women around him all the time. Now, here's one thing that there are a few reasons why I think that this case has not been prosecuted yet. I have seen the list that some of the victims have written of the men that they were trafficked to. And I can tell you these are very powerful men. And if they were prosecuted,
some of these names have not been made public.
Some of them have, some of them haven't. But if they were prosecuted, they would have the best defense attorneys in the world. And you know this as a journalist, that prosecutors don't take cases up unless they think they can win, right?
Yeah, right.
And you have to be you just need to have an ironclad case. That's the way the prosecutors think. That's the way DAs think. That's the way the state attorneys think. A lot of them run for election, and they run based on the number of cases that they're able to prosecute and win. And so they do not want to take on a case against a very powerful person who can win. And frankly, Epstein, he was able to do that. I mean, he got off on a charge that was trafficking a teenager for prostitution, a 13-year-old for prostitution. This was back in 2008, as if a 13-year-old could be a prostitute. I mean, that shouldn't even be a charge. So that's all to say that the FBI has a lot of evidence right now. Now, I understand not making that public because of how that can be traumatizing to a lot of the victims who are Jane Does, right?
Sure.
And a lot of those Jane Does have also been paid off. A lot of them have dealt with witness intimidation. And a lot of those men, those Johns, a lot of them were with women who were 18. And that's the other thing that gets tricky, is figuring out how old the girls were at the time. Now, to me, 18 is still a child, but it is legal. So that it gets complicated because Jeffrey liked to keep the young girls to himself. And when I say little girls, I mean when Courtney Wild, who basically was able to re-prosecute Jeffrey Epstein through the Crime Victims' Rights Act case that she won. She was 14 years old and wearing braces when she was brought to his house.
Oh, God.
No, this was disgusting. And that's why I find all of this like, oh, let's just close the book. It's all done. Everything
that's the way
and it's disgusting.
That's how it looks to me, Tara. And for the longest time, I was sort of like, why is the right wing all, wee-weed up about this? It was just sort of their way of going after people like Bill Gates and Bill Clinton and stuff like that. But I mean, this looks like some kind of cover up. The way that this was released and leaked to the press to say, oh, there is no list. Oh, here's the video. I mean, that doesn't necessarily. I mean, two things could be true at once. There could be no list, but there could also be redacted files that just don't that have the kind of information that they don't want out there.
That is more powerful than a list. The actual evidence they are sitting on is more powerful than the list. I actually went back to the senior law enforcement source that I spoke to a few weeks ago before I started going on these shows and explaining the idea that there is no list. I went on the shows to explain there was no list because of Elon Musk's comments that Trump is in the files. Trump is in the files. Trump is on the flight logs. Trump's in the little black book. But that's very different than having actual files.
He's been photographed with Epstein umpteen times. Yeah.
They were pals at the height of Epstein's sex trafficking operation. Is there a smoking gun connecting the two? No. There was a Jane Doe who put forward a case, but she rescinded it. And it was very quickly happened. I know that from the girls that I spoke to, none of them said that they were ever trafficked to Donald Trump. And I would never report something unless I had firsthand knowledge of it. So I can't ever say that. I do have recordings. You can check it out, by the way, for everyone who's really interested in Epstein on my YouTube channel at Tara Palmeri. I interviewed the lawyer for Courtney Wild, Brad Edwards, who represents most of the victims. And he deposed Trump for his case. And Trump talks about his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. And he said that when he was friends with Jeffrey Epstein, that when he asked Jeffrey why he had all these young girls hanging out at the house, he said it was a big brother, big sister program. And to me, I think that when somebody looks the other way for so long, like when does it become enabling?
Right.
The looking the other way. And that's always been that's always become the part of the story that I think gets lost in the wealth porn of it all is
Yeah.
the whole like society that all of these people could then allow Jeffrey Epstein back into society after he even served
Oh,
his
it's
time.
disgusting. It's totally
Right,
disgusting. Yeah.
exactly. And the fact that Jeffrey Epstein and Trump, they didn't have a breakup over these girls. They broke up over a piece of real estate. They both wanted the same property, some waterfront property in Palm Beach.
Yeah. And so I guess then what is Elon Musk up to? Because obviously, I don't know what he knows, but I mean, he was, live tweeting overnight, all kinds of stuff. He tweeted 9 hours ago in the middle of the night. What's the time? Oh, look, no one has been arrested o'clock again. And not that we want to put a whole lot of stock in what Elon Musk is saying or doing on social media, but he's the one who kind of got this party started in terms of what the hell is going on with Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein in terms of where the lists are or what's in the files, that storyline. What do you think is happening there? I mean, honestly, what do we know?
I mean, I think Elon Musk is antagonizing the situation, and I think that this reaction from the DOJ, which according
Yeah,
to my sources a few weeks ago told me, hang tight, Tara. A big part of the reason why we haven't released the videos or the footage is because we're using them to build cases against the Johns. And if we put out that prejudicial information, it could destroy our cases before they're
sure.
ready. Because as you know, like I mentioned earlier, they're going to be up against the best defense attorneys in the world. And they don't want their witnesses to deal with witness tampering. And they also don't want Ghislaine Maxwell to then who's in prison right now, she was the groomer, to then use that new evidence as a means to reopen her own trial. That was
Right.
another, that was also made clear to me that they didn't want that new evidence made known because listen, I don't have anything to back this up. This is purely conjecture. So, because this story is one that lives in conspiracy land in a lot of ways, and I am a real
Yeah.
journalist like you, I do try to make sure I'm clear about what is something that I see conjecture and what is real.
Yeah.
But I have to think that Ghislaine Maxwell will not spend I think she's spending a few decades in prison. I have to think that she must be helping them with their case. And so
Interesting.
that's if building future cases. But the fact that the attorney general comes out with a memo saying that there will be no uncharged third parties being prosecuted.
Yeah. What's that all about? What does that mean? It sounds like a cover up. It sounds like she's sweeping stuff under the rug. It just
It sounds like
does.
she's saying they're not going to prosecute the Johns. Now, I'm supposed to talk to my source soon. And when I do, I will definitely, maybe we can do another one of these and
Yeah,
I'll let you know
definitely.
because this is a very high ranking source inside of the FBI. But I am very, very confused because a few weeks ago, they told me, don't worry, we're working on cases. And that's why. And we do have this footage and we do have these videos. And by the way, in the first case against Jeffrey Epstein back in 2006, when the police raided his house, they took out so many cameras.
Right.
So many
Wow.
cameras. So
And of
the
course, that was
idea
part of his
they
MO. That was his right. That was wanted to arm himself with ammunition in case people came after him. I mean, right? I mean that.
Yeah, and I'm so tired of the story being like, "Oh, it's all Democrats on the list. It's all Republicans on the list. Everybody's on the list." Okay? And I don't mean the list, I mean the files.
In the
Excuse me.
files. In the
I
files.
see even I'm falling into the trap of calling it the list
No,
because of
and but
the
that's
way it's
but that
become weaponized.
but this is
Yeah.
why I have my spidey senses tingling here, and I don't want to hold you up for too long here because I know you got to get going. But you and I both know, Tara, since we've been in this business for a long time, when stuff gets put out over 4th of July weekend, it's the same reason why they passed that big, boulder of bullshit, as I was calling it, the BBB bill. They did that over 4th of July weekend and signed it and everything. That's always a telltale sign that they want to bury something. It just is. And so, they put it out overnight. To me, it just strikes me as a little too cute by half. And something is going on here. And we don't know what it is. And it's a Scooby-Doo mystery. We're going to figure it out, I guess, one of these days, I suppose. But it just, something smells. Something stinks.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been texting with some of the survivors this morning.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember Maria Farmer, but she actually called the FBI. Her and her sister were both sexually abused
Yeah.
at the home of Les Wexner, he's the owner of this. This was Epstein's best friend. He's the owner of Victoria's Secret. He's the first person to really bring Epstein into the high life, coming from being a math teacher at Dalton. Actually, Bill Barr's father was the headmaster there and hired him, but had to get rid of him for being too creepy around students. But
Weird.
she said to me, Maria Farmer, who, bless her, I mean, so many people, and I want to, let me just first say what Maria said, and then I want to explain one more thing before I
Yeah,
tell it to
definitely.
you, because I always feel like we always lose track of what this is really about, and it's about the survivors. But Maria said to me this morning, the abuse for me isn't sexual. It's decades of systematic government abuse from the top. And Virginia had to grapple with both. Um, we had to deal with the government before the trial. Those little teens in Florida also did all of these interviews after 2006. Nothing happened. He
Yeah.
does like basically house arrest. Well, he's got an ankle bracelet, and they did so much for justice and they didn't get anything in exchange. And these moments like this is really the thing that really it kills them. And
Yeah.
there are high rates of suicide within survivors of sexual abuse. It's a
And
fact.
this is
And
why
it's
people don't
happening.
come forward. This is why women don't come forward and report these crimes,
No.
because they just think the system's not going to work on their
And why
behalf.
should they? I mean, this is a clear-cut case, and why should they believe that anyone's going to fight for them?
Yeah.
And somebody was saying, why did Virginia kill herself? For the reasons that I just said right there.
Right.
I get really upset with the conspiracy theorists who are like, she was off. Don't you think she would have been offed? She's been telling her story of sexual abuse for decades, and no one would
Yeah.
listen to her or believe her.
Well, and it's just remarkable, and I know you have to go, but to see like some of these far right fringe figures, I could use more colorful words, but you're reminding me that, we're supposed to be journalists here, so I'm trying to keep it in check. But I mean, some of the really bad faith people who were over at the White House waving around files was the DC Drano guy and the Libs of TikTok person. And I mean, they've been sort of reveling in this story for years and years. And I to give some of them credit, I suppose some of them are on social media and saying, what the hell's going on here? But it is kind of a remarkable moment in that, this was something that came out of the far right fringe, and they were focused on it for a long, long time. And now it seems like the far right fringe people who are now in the administration, some of whom were fanning the flames of this controversy themselves, are now trying to like, okay, we're trying to move on here. Let's just keep on moving. Nothing to see here. That's what makes it stink.
That is exactly what happened, Jim.
Yeah.
They loved the conspiracy
They
theories
loved it.
until the beast went after them. And they made their biggest followers into props. They looked like fools outside of the White House, holding up binders that said classified. All
Remember
those
that?
documents were public documents, which I've gone through. Like I said, they're on the FBI, they are on the vault. If you have time, which by the way will take you weeks and weeks, you can go through all of these documents that they were holding up saying they were classified. They're mostly Virginia Roberts. They're
Wow.
mostly her case documents. She's a big part of the reason that Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison right now, and so many others. Uh, I just, yeah, when the monster came after them in the form of Elon Musk, I mean, I think this is what really set it off.
Really
I think if
unleashed it.
Elon didn't go after Trump and say, you're in the files, we wouldn't be here right now.
Fascinating. And now Elon wants to start this whole party thing, this America Party thing, which I thought you and I would get into, but you have to go. I know you have very limited time because now you're very much in demand. Always doing great reporting, Tara.
Thank you. So
Thank you for
random.
giving me some of your time. I know you're in a much funner place than DC, so I owe you one big time. So thank you for
No,
doing that.
no, no. And
Yeah.
this is important to me. And this is like one of
Yeah.
the few stories where I would jump off and say, I want to jump in here because I don't
Yeah.
think I'm speaking for myself. Like, I think I'm speaking for the women here who have been totally let down by the
Totally.
government. I talked to Virginia Roberts the day that Pam put out those binders. And I said to her, what do you think about that? And she said, I'm so disappointed. Elon and her, they were messaging. She believed that President Trump and Elon Musk would dig back into this case for her, for the survivors. And she was
Wow.
so disappointed by it. But she was always hopeful. And it's like making a mockery of their pain in a lot of ways. And
It is.
so
They've been used. They've been used is what's happened in a
they have
really
been used so many times in their lives.
in
Their
a
lives have
shameful way.
been totally, it's
Yeah.
disgusting. And I hope, I don't know, I hope there's some justice.
Well, great work, Tara, as
Thank
always, and
you.
thank you for staying on it. And as soon as there's another big development, I'll bug you again. So thanks for your
Yeah, yeah,
time.
yeah. Always happy to jump on with you, Jim.
I'll let you get
Thanks,
back to your
guys.
spritzes. All right, take care.
Okay, bye.
Thanks,
Cheers.
Tara. All right, that's Tara Palmeri, great reporter.
Thanks for listening to the Tara Palmeri Show. I want to thank my producer, Eric Abinate, my booker, Jane Fusco, and my team of researchers, Abby Baker and Luke Radel, and my social media manager, Sarah Carney. If you like this show, please follow it, subscribe, leave a written review. I'd really appreciate that, and share it with your friends. You can get more of my independent reporting by going to tarapalmeri.com and signing up for my newsletter, The Red Letter. It'll come straight to your inbox, and if you become a paid subscriber, it's a way to support my independent journalism. I'll be back again soon.